It was supposed to be a routine flight. Families boarded. Children smiled. The engines roared to life. But somewhere above the clouds, death crept in quietly. The pilots stopped responding. The cabin went silent. And the plane kept flying with no one alive to land it. This is not a ghost story. This is Helios Flight 522, the plane that became a flying tomb. It was the morning of August 14, 2005. Helios Airways Flight 522 was getting ready for takeoff from Larnaca, Cyprus. Its destination? Prague, with a scheduled stopover in Athens. On board were 115 passengers, most of them tourists, excited for their holiday. There were children, parents, couples. No one could imagine that none of them would survive this flight. The aircraft, a Boeing 737, looked completely normal from the outside. In the cockpit, Captain Hans-Jürgen Merten and First Officer Pambos Karalambis prepared for takeoff. The sky was clear. Nothing seemed unusual, but deep inside the aircraft systems, something had already gone wrong. Love real air crash stories? Subscribe now. Unbeknownst to the crew, the plane's pressurization system had been left in manual mode during a maintenance check. It was supposed to be switched back to auto before takeoff, but no one noticed. As the plane climbed, the air inside the cabin thinned rapidly. At around 10,000 feet, a warning alarm started ringing in the cockpit. But here's where the disaster truly began. The alarm sounded exactly like another one, the takeoff configuration warning, which usually only goes off on the ground. Confused, the pilots didn't recognize the real problem. The aircraft was losing pressure fast. As the plane continued to climb, the oxygen levels inside the cabin dropped to deadly levels. One by one, everyone began to lose consciousness. First came dizziness, then confusion, then complete blackout. The pilots became disoriented. They didn't put on their oxygen masks in time. Within minutes, both were slumped in their seats, unconscious. The same was happening in the passenger cabin. People thought they were just tired. Many simply fell asleep. But this sleep was final. With no one at the controls, the autopilot quietly took over. Flight 522 leveled off at 34,000 feet and continued its course, completely silent. The plane was flying perfectly. From the outside, it looked like any other jet in the sky. But inside, it was already a graveyard. Air traffic controllers tried to contact the crew. No response. They made repeated radio calls. Nothing. The flight kept moving toward Athens, cold, lifeless, mechanical. As minutes turned to hours, Greek authorities grew more alarmed. At 11:24 a.m., nearly 90 minutes after takeoff, two F-16 fighter jets were scrambled to intercept the unresponsive aircraft. What they saw was chilling. Through the cockpit window, the pilots of the fighter jets could see the crew, motionless. Heads slumped, eyes closed, no movement at all. It was like watching a plane flown by ghosts. Then suddenly, something happened. From the rear of the cockpit, a figure emerged. A man, wearing an oxygen mask, stumbled into view. He looked weak, barely able to stand. But he was trying. His name was Andreas Prodromou, a 25-year-old flight attendant with a private pilot's license. He was one of the only people who managed to stay conscious by using a portable oxygen bottle. In the final moments, he tried to take control of the aircraft. But he was too late. The plane had been flying for over 3 hours. It was running out of fuel. Andreas tried to stabilize the aircraft, but there was nothing he could do. One of the engines flamed out. Then the other. At 12:03 p.m., the plane crashed into the hills near Grammatikos, just north of Athens. The explosion could be seen from miles away. All 121 people on board perished. No survivors. No second chances. Just silence. The investigation revealed a chain of fatal errors. The pressurization switch left in manual mode. The pilot's failure to recognize the hypoxia warning. The confusion caused by identical alarms. It was a perfect storm of small mistakes that ended in total tragedy. Had just one crew member noticed the cabin pressure, had one oxygen mask been put on in time, this disaster could have been prevented. Helios Airways never recovered from the crash. The airline was shut down the following year. But the legacy of Flight 522 shook the aviation world. Cabin pressurization protocols were tightened worldwide. Alarm systems were redesigned to sound different from each other, so no one would confuse a warning ever again. But the changes came at a terrible cost. 121 innocent lives. Andreas Prodromou, the young flight attendant who fought to save the plane, was hailed as a hero. In his final moments, he didn't panic. He didn't give up. He stepped into the cockpit, alone, and tried to stop the inevitable. He is remembered not just for his courage, but for reminding us that even in the face of death, some people still fight. Helios Flight 522 became known as the ghost plane. Not because of some supernatural tale, but because it flew for hours with no living soul to guide it. A perfect machine, silently carrying its lost passengers through the skies, long after they had already slipped away. Sometimes, the scariest flights are the ones that look completely normal from the outside. If this story gave you chills, like this video, share it with someone who loves aviation mysteries.